An Ode to the Superheroes. There are not many experiences that rival meeting one's personal hero. I was lucky enough to experience this a few years ago when I was 16 at Philadelphia Comic-Con. While I was there, I patiently waited my turn in line to meet Sebastian Stan, the Romanian actor who portrays James Buchanan Bucky Barnes, better known as the Winter Soldier, in the Captain America movie series. Starting to grasp the magnitude of the moment, I could hardly contain my nerves, excitement, and sheer terror. In fact, I was such a tightly wound ball of anxiety that I could barely move. However, my turn eventually came, and I was somehow able to lift one foot up and put it down in front of me, and then another, until I was right in front of my hero. In that moment, I did what any teenage girl would do. I burst into tears. Noticeably shocked by this turn of events, Stan took me aside, away from the prying eyes of the thousands of fans still waiting in line. There, he concernedly asked me, "What's wrong? Is there anything I can do to help?" Overflowing with emotions, I composed myself enough to look him in the eyes and tell him that he brought to life a character that I had cherished and idolized since childhood. Even more than that, the character Bucky Barnes spoke to me in a way no one else did, during a time when no one else even came close. I concluded the series of emotional statements by telling Stan that his portrayal saved me during a time when I was not worth saving, and I would never be able to thank him enough for that. He then pulled me into a massive hug, before quietly reminding me that I am always worth it, and to never listen or believe otherwise. We then moved together back into the photo op area, where our picture was taken. I then went on my way back to where my father and brother were waiting for me, praying that the photo would still look okay, despite my waterlogged eyes. Luckily for me, the professional photography equipment worked wonders, and that photo is in a shadow box with my favorite Winter Soldier comic book, signed by Sebastian Stan. Of course, that's how I remembered everything happening. As this was irrefutably the greatest day of my young life, I am more than happy to share this experience with anyone inclined to listen. This opportunity presented itself just the other day, when my boyfriend was over for dinner with my parents. At the beginning of our relationship, I was hesitant to divulge the true depths of my nerdiness to him, but we are happily past that now. While preparing for this year's Comic-Con trip, we began to share stories about our past experiences. I recounted to my significant other all of the excitement and emotion that came with that warm June day in Philadelphia, before seeing my father look at me in confusion. "Olivia," he began, "there's no way we went when you were 16. Needless to say, this naysayer did not please me. "Of course we did," I retorted. "We went for my 16th birthday. Shaking his head, my father reminded me, "We went for your high school graduation. It was your present. Remember, you graduated 2 days before the convention." I was shocked to realize that he was completely right. Unshaken, I continued plowing through my story. After I finished, my dad looked at me in a slightly bemused fashion and asked, "Don't you remember how Sebastian pulled you aside before you started crying? And how he ruffled your hair right before the picture was taken? That's why it's all puffed up in the photo." In shock, I informed him that I had no recollection of that happening, and that he must be wrong. Of course, he proceeded to pull out the video he had taken from afar, proving him inarguably correct. To me, it was like watching a new movie for the first time. I could see everything displayed before me, but could not recall the events for myself. Later that night, when I stopped to think about it, I realized there was no way I could have been 16 at the time. At 16, I was still in the throes of my depression, combating the eating disorder that would plague me for more than 5 years. When I look at the photo, I not only see my hair tousled, but I also see the color in my cheeks that was never present when I was bulimic. In retrospect, I believe I have been attributing that story to the age of 16 because I was so desperate for something positive to have happened during that very difficult time. What I failed to realize was that a number of good things did in fact occur. I discovered a support system in my family that I never fully comprehended, a network of people who had lived through very similar circumstances, as well as a genre of literature and a cast of characters that I identified with more than any living person. Without all of this happening at the age of 16, I would have never been strong enough to live to the age of 18. I personally thank one of the people who played a major role in saving my life.